Welcome to the 24th edition of Women's Wrestling Weekly, the show. I am Kyle Klingman along with Scott Beck. And Scott, in my hand, I have a list. The reason I have this list is because I was going to the University of Iowa's women's roster page, and on that page, they have a list of how to actually pronounce some of the last names. So I thought I'm just going to go check some of these out. I think I know all of the ones that they're going to list. And I clicked on Val Solorio and I realized that I was wrong. It's Solorio. And so I texted Nate Solorio and said I had your last name the entire time. I mispronounced it. He laughed back and said, "No, you pronounce Jimenez wrong." He said I pronounce it Jimenez, which I don't think I do. I may have said Jimenez or
Yeah,
Jimenez.
I say Jimenez. Yeah,
Yeah. So my list is the ones that
Jimenez.
are hard to pronounce that either you have butchered or that I have butchered. Okay. Number one, Rayana Sagoon. I've said Sahagan, and we'll have the name up here so you can see why it looks like Sahagan. So it's Rayana Sagoon. One of the ones I'm proud. I worked 500 times on this one, close. Gao Shoa Whitethorn. She's injured right now, but that's a tough name to pronounce.
Yeah, she's
One
tough too. Good
is
wrestler.
one that I had is JC Foeller. I'm going to say Joe Norton was the one that sabotaged me on that. I pronounce it JC Foeller, and then I got it from her. It's JC Feller. So here's the one that you kind of got. I don't want to say made fun of. They said it's kind of endearing how Scott pronounces Samara Chavez. You say Chavez.
Chavez. Yeah, I say Chavez. Yeah, I
Yeah.
apologize.
So it's
I'm
Samara.
good. I'm glad to be corrected though. That's
Hey,
great.
this is both of us here. There's another one you mispronounce. It's Everest Lydecker, not Laydecker.
Yeah, I'm sorry. And Michaela trains with her. That's pretty bad. I'm sorry. Yep.
We got the Audrey Keely Curley from Simpson. She was in one of our stock watches, so I wanted to get that one. You'll see why it looks different. Violet Leisure, some people say LaSure, and then Loriana Paestawa. It seems like it should be complex, but when you look at it, it's pretty simple. And I got it from Travis Mercado that it's Paestawa. Phonetically, you look at it, and it pretty much makes sense. Not everyone has an easy to pronounce name like Scott Beck.
Especially in this sport because it's so international. There's so many different countries and there's nuances. We think, in English, and a lot of the pronunciations are not things that we normally do or speak, and we try to like think how we think they should sound, and we're incorrect a lot. And other countries can't pronounce some of our words or names. Japanese people have a hard time with the L sound. Look, it can come off sound like a W sound. So we're trying our best. I really apologize. It is important to me, and I don't like lightly take it. I do the best I can, but especially if you follow international wrestling and try to talk about it, you 100% butcher names until somebody corrects you, and then we'll still butcher them again, I'm sure. But
We will.
it's fun to get to. I'm glad to get that from people, though. That's
Me
good.
too.
Thank
Just
you.
that I like that we get called out because I truly want
100%.
to do it right. And then I had one more I forgot. It's a coach in Texas, Lindsey Spute. You'll see how it's spelled Spjut. I worked on that one too. So
Good.
we're trying here. And
Yeah, fun.
Nate Solorio, great story on Nate Solorio. Now that I have it right, now I can tell these stories about Nate. I met Nate when Val, his daughter, was going to be in Who's Number One. So I live in Iowa. I have a 319 number. Nate wanted his daughter to go to the University of Iowa so bad. And so he pulled over to the side of the road. He thought the University of Iowa was calling to recruit his daughter. And so
Oh my God.
he called me back right away. He was thrilled beyond thrilled. He was so disappointed that it was me. Uh, we've become friends now, and it's a funny story that we like to laugh about. But it's funny because Clarissa, if she was calling from her cell phone, it's still a Hawaii number. So
That's hilarious.
it can
That's
be
a good story.
yeah. So it's a fun story. Names though. The US Open, we have a lot of the names. We don't have brackets. We'll go into a lot more next episode because it's going to be the week before the US Open. But this tournament is so fun because it really sets everything up for what's going to happen for the remainder of the US calendar year for the United States. It's the first setup for the Final X and the World Team Trials process. And just looking at some of the names, there's just a lot of reasons to get excited. And again, I'm doubling down on 50 kilograms. It's the weight class to watch. Audrey Jimenez, hope I'm saying it right. Emily Shilson, Charlotte Fowler, Erin Golston. I think this may be her year to make it happen. Mia Palumbo coming back in the mix. And now Falcon we'll see in there. Heather Kroll, who just won the U23 Nationals. We'll start with 50 kilograms. When you see that, what kind of expectations do you have, Scott, on what we're going to see in the lightest weight class now that we have an icon leaving the sport and she's a coach in Sarah Hildebrandt?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's going to be Audrey or Erin Goldson. To me, are the two front runners right now. I mean, I'm not counting Emily Shilson out. I just don't know where she is. It'll be first time back since I believe the Bill Farrell. So, obviously Shilson will be a strong contender. She's back to, good form. But Audrey's looked phenomenal. And Aaron is a veteran, and it might be her time. I mean, there's a lot of other people that can, come through. Kroll is really tough. Palumbo, it'll be interesting to see how she looks, coming back. But, I think right now, I'd say it would be between Golston, Shilson as a wild card, and then Jimenez.
Just a few other interesting ones in the mix. You have Kendra Ryan, Kaylani Schufelt, who's a national collegiate finalist. She has been in redshirt wrestling up weight classes, so we'll see what she can do down there. But I just think 50 kilos is the weight, regardless of division, age level division, and it filters over into U.S. Open. I think it's going to be the best one.
It's a very deep weight. And kind of, if you think about it, it kind of makes sense because it's the lightest weight. And traditionally, the lightest weight used to be like 48. I think even at some period of time, it might have been 46. So you just have a lot of people that, at the bottom, part, and people that might even be slightly lighter, which is a disadvantage to them. So it's really, I think the lightest weight should be a kilo or two lower, to be honest with you. I don't think 50 is the right first weight class. But for the USA, it's always a very competitive, very deep weight. I cannot recall a period of time, going back to when you would have Lampy, Chun, Victoria Anthony. Just going back to when you had Victoria Anthony, Clarissa Chun, Alyssa Lampy. We've always been 3 to 5 deep, with solid first three in that weight.
And then you also have Patricia Miranda, who was before that. So it has been a weight class that has been consistently good. But when you look at that, when you have Sarah Hildebrandt in the mix, she's going to make the team. So it's just been that deep the entire time, just minus Sarah Hildebrandt now. It's been that fun the entire time.
Yeah.
You just know Sarah's going to make it.
But it was the next person. Like it was Hildebrandt just has absolutely dominated that weight class. So this is pretty wide open now. I mean, I expect this to be very competitive with a couple of, solid front runners, as we said, but this is going to be exciting. And I'm not convinced, for sure that if we do get an upset or something like that, the Open, that's a person that's going to want to make in the team either.
And a lot on the line. Every U.S. Open winner gets an automatic bid into Final X, regardless of if you have a returning medalist. If you win the U.S. Open, you are in Final X. So a lot on the line here.
Correct. Yeah. And also this tournament's fun because some fun about having it in Vegas, and it's at a new venue. We've been at South Point the last number of times it's been there. We're going to be in a different venue, which is more downtown, and supposedly it's a good venue. I really don't know. I'm not familiar with it.
Let's go to the upper weights because if the United States ever has a chance at knocking off Japan, it's going to be because of the last 4 weight classes, potentially 5 if you have Kayla Miracle in there who can win it. Macy Kilty has shown she can win it. She's been in the finals just like Kayla Miracle. And then you have Murderers Row. You have Olympic silver medalist Kennedy Blades moving down to 68 from 76. Presumably Amit Elor will be at 72 kilograms, who is the reigning Olympic champion at 68 and 2-time world champ at 72. And then either Kylie Welker, Diamond Guilford, or Yelena McCoy at 76. So it's looking good on the last half for the U.S., depending on who makes the team.
There's a little bit of musical chairs there at the top, but yeah, I mean, if you have, I'm not going to just hand it, I mean, Miracle's a solid favorite based on experience at 62. I think other people would like to say something about that, but right now I think 62 is Miracle's, to lose, so to speak, and she's a 2-time world silver. Kilty's a medal. I mean, we're just those 5 weights. I mean, are weights that the U.S. can, win or medal in every one of them if people wrestle well. I mean, you know, Kayla Miracle, has taken 2 silvers. She is as good as she's beaten all the world champs. She's as good as anybody in the weight class. She was wrestling great, in the Olympic year. So I expect a lot from her this year. And Macy just keeps getting better and better. Is since she's been healthy. And then Blaze looks really good at 68. Amit obviously murdered everybody everywhere she's ever been. So I until proven wrong, she will continue to murder people. And 76 is wide open. You'd have to give the nod to Welker based on her, having beaten the people recently and won a world medal. But we're very deep at that weight class, and it's going to be very solid. So, with McCoy at Guilford, so this is going to be, the team we will ultimately put out will be very solid, especially in the upper weights.
Macy Kilty has accepted her final X bid, so we will not see her at 65 kilograms. Interesting, the way it's shaking out, as good as last year's team was, only 2 potential final Xers accepting bids, and that would be Macy Kilty, and then the possibility of Helen Maroulis, because we don't know what she's going to do. So she could accept her bid at 57 kilograms and come back for at least this year. It might be another cycle. We have no idea. We don't, as you said, we don't know if she knows what she's going to do
Right.
next. So that a lot of things at play right now. But it is interesting that you have a returning Olympic silver medalist that's going to go down. So she has to go through the U.S. Open cycle. It's
I
fascinating how this is playing out.
I kind of like it, to be honest with you, because sometimes people whine about the advantage that somebody, which by the way, I don't. You've earned the advantage. I mean, you're winning a world medal. I mean, you should have an advantage. And people sometimes complain about the format, and then, now there's no complaining to be done. Everybody's got to go through it once they move weights, which I like that about the system. And I don't believe there's, other than the number one seed in the U.S. Open, I don't even think there's no buys, there's no sitting in the semis, there's none of that, and zero of that. So I think the way we're doing it's good. People have a chance to beat these people. So, if you don't like it, beat them, medal in the worlds, and then you're the one that has the advantage. And you've seen that, on the men's side too. There's some, complaining, and is it an advantage? Yeah, it's supposed to be. You've earned it. So, but this is gonna be fun U.S. Open because most people are going to be there. I mean, Macy Kilty won't. If Helen keeps her spot, she won't. But it's going to be exciting. And the lighter weights is probably some new names. But these are not will not be shocking names. These are all whoever's going to come through in these weights has been around the block a little bit.
We don't know what Jakar Winchester is going to do. She has just publicly stated, I don't know what I'm going to do. And so we don't know if it could be 55, 57, 59, 62. She was as low as 53 for the Olympics in the 2021. Don't think she's going that low just based on the recent competitions that she's had. But Jakar is going to be a factor no matter where she goes. But then 53, 55, 57, 59, those are kind of all up for grabs right now. Dom Parrish, we don't know if she's going to come back. She's the returning Olympian at that weight at 53. I hope she does.
A
Rather
world
than Dom,
champion.
yeah, world champion. So I hope Dom gives it another chance. That's a great opportunity for us to have a world champion still in the mix. So kind of that spot right there, 53 to 59, some question marks.
Yeah, and I think I think how things slot in might have to do with what Helen decides to do, whether she you know takes her final her spot to final X might affect where Jakar ultimately goes. I 53 is definitely out. I don't know. She'll and as we've seen in the past, whatever weight she registers and has borderline zero correlation to what weight she wrestles in the tournament. So we'll just see what she does, and how things play out. The other thing you see too in this tournament, sometimes people it's a new quad now, so where people try this year isn't necessarily where people wind up, or at some point too, Father Time is undefeated. You start to see some people that hang around think they're going to do another quad, may not get the success they thought they would have. Young people start to beat them, or matches get tougher. The injuries, so they may step out. So I think this is kind of the first year or two of a quad is like a feeling out kind of year. But I think Team USA is going to be, very solid across the board. I'm excited, to be there. I love Las Vegas. excited for the new venue, even though I love the concept of South Point, where you have the hotel and the venue are attached, so you don't really have to leave, and you pretty much don't see daylight for 4 days sometimes. But it's that was a good, I thought, kind of a hokey, off the beaten path venue, but I liked it, and we'll see what this new place brings. I don't like that you're not attached to the venue, uh, but we'll see. As you said, we'll go into a much deeper dive next week as things start to heat up. The other thing is there's been a lot of entries already, but you start to see a lot of times towards the end, you see a bunch of them start to flow in. So a lot of the names that we've mentioned, some of them I haven't even, entered yet. So we're just mention them because we know they'll have to be there.
Two things we know, one thing we don't. First thing we know, Brett Fry is the new head wrestling coach at King University. We've been wondering about that. He got hired right around the women's nationals time. Edinburgh is going to add women's wrestling. It will be a Division II program. Of course, the men's is Division I. The thing we don't know is what will the weight classes situation be for college wrestling? Will they send one? What will the number of qualifiers be? We'll start with that because that's just really impacts what's going to happen for recruiting for all of these coaches and how they approach it. Because if you're going for depth and you're saying, come on in, we're going to have 15 like they had before, 15 qualifiers, you can pretty much say whatever you want because you could just say you can be one of those 15. If you're down to you have a maximum of one per weight, that changes everything. And if you're three deep, four deep for a lot of these power programs, that does change how you recruit. So I don't know if some of these seniors are going to hold out and wait for that piece of information, but the sooner the better because this is a pivotal decision for the future of women's college wrestling.
We've been mentioning it for a long time, and until we have clarity, it's very hard to make these kind of decisions, until you really have the information. I mean, in general, anything in life, you want to have as much information as possible. I think it's great, by the way, that Edinburgh, starting a program, the Fighting Scots. They have a long history. I remember Bruce Baumgartner coached there, and the resurgence of the men's program, Sean O'Day was a national champion. They've had other national champions, MMA fighters coming out of there on the men's side. It's a great hotbed of wrestling, and that was a really nice surprise. It was fun to see Lehigh also, start a program as well, as we keep saying. And then maybe UPenn at some point, that would be a good representation from the state. But yeah, I mean, the other thing about coaching at King, so I don't know what's going on with Gracie Figueroa, whether she's staying or not. But she, as another segue, she entered the U.S. Open at 53 kilos. Now, the last time she wrestled, I believe, I think she was at 59 kilos at the U.S. Open 2 years ago, and didn't do so well. And now she's back at 53. Maybe she's been scrapping with the girl. Gracie Figueroa, has as many national titles in high school as probably any human being. Made a bunch of world teams. Has a world medal. I think junior. I think maybe. But contended for a lot of them. So let's see what she's a wild card at 53. No idea. She could be just a force there, or just kind of not training full time and just throwing name in the hat. So that's interesting. And I don't know what's going to happen now at King. But good luck to new coach. And I think having come from SEM, it should be good to help on the recruiting ground. Again, it's a lot easier to get the girls if there's only 10 slots, then I think the ground will be a little more fertile probably.
And I would have to think part of the thinking is there's a lot of SEM girls on that team right now with Claire Bowie, Virginia Ford, both two very good wrestlers that were close to Brett Fry. So I just wonder if that was part of the thinking. Erica Pastoriza is in the portal. She wrestled for him. I don't know where she's going to go, but you'd have to think that if Brett Fry is smart, he's going to make a play for her at 103 because that's a tough weight class to get wrestlers is at 103. So I would think maybe part of that is to keep them together. And really, you just have to say, we'll see how he's going to do because you don't know what his college wrestling experience is for women's side. We know what he can do at SEM. He's done a nice job there, but transitioning to the college side, I wish him the best. I hope he does well. He's a great guy. It's a different game. And like anything, we'll see.
Yeah, I don't really know him that well, but I wish Coach Fry good luck as well. And I do I can't, you and I talked about maintaining, athletes that are there, and we thought time hurt, but perhaps bringing somebody that had coached them and has a relationship from SEM can solidify and keep people back there, and maybe you get someone like Pastor Riza, who is a very very talented wrestler. She's a victim, of that situation where internationally now the lightest weight is 50 kilos. That's a great example of someone who's very, very good, but it's going to be very difficult to wrestle 50. If 48 was the lightest weight, it's a lot more reasonable. But wish them luck. I'm glad to see they made the decision, and we'll see how the cards play.
On the Edinburgh front, I don't know what to make of this. So, because so much of it is who they hire as the coach and how they're going to do in the future, just like anything. But it seems like it's a gold mine to add women's wrestling at Edinburgh because you are in the heart of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania girls high school wrestling is booming right now. You are there with a state where you have Wyoming Seminary, and a lot of these great high school girls are coming from Pennsylvania. You don't know if it's going to get fractured with Lehigh being there. You have Lock Haven, you have Edinburgh. If you add some of these programs that are high level in Pennsylvania, you don't know how that's going to be. Gannon with the program that they're building. So it will be interesting to see what Edinburgh can do there. But it does seem like a gold mine.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's really an issue. I mean, because at the moment you don't have, Ohio's got very good high school wrestling as well. Jersey is very good. So there's a dearth in the Northeast of college programs right now. There is just not enough. So I'm not worried that you can't support, in that the Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, Ohio, um, Virginia area that cannot support Lock Haven, Gannon, Lehigh, and Edinburgh. I think there's more than enough talent to fill rosters from that area. And the more schools in the Northeast, the better. It's very lacking on the college front, and we have some catching up to do. And Pennsylvania, I will say, was relative to the talents of Pennsylvania in wrestling, was way, way behind in women's wrestling and has jumped, just catching up very quickly on the high school and now the college level. It's really good to see.
And you really do feel good about Erin Vandiver being there at Gannon University, just knowing where her background with USC Wrestling at Wyoming Seminary now in the college system. It really is that formula we talked about, how you want the elite coaches to get into the high school college game, and it's fitting into that formula, Scott.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, this is exactly what we talked about. And Coach Van Diver is, serious coach, game on, knows her stuff as well as anybody, very competitive person. I've been on some trips with her, so she's great. And yeah, this is exactly what you want. And then she will, and especially she's had the experience, like you said, USA Wrestling, Sam here. She's coached at all the levels, and that helps train and breed because when athletes that she's coaching graduate, they'll go on, probably most likely some to want to be coaches themselves, and they'll have training under a great mentor like that.
U23 Pan-Am Championships just took place, and it was on the heels of the U23 Nationals, so it was a qualifying type of system. Not all of the number ones accepted that spot for the U23 Pan-Ams, but we just had it. There are a few takeaways. I think number one is that the Pan Am countries, besides the United States, are coming to play ball. I don't think it's just going to be a clean sweep for the United States. Canada's been in the mix at certain times, but you saw that at 50 kilos. Cuba has a good girl down there. Any thoughts that you had watching U23 Pan Ams?
Yeah, a couple of thoughts. First of all, general, I would say just one aspirational thing is, you know, I didn't get to watch a lot of this live. I had some things going on, and then trying to watch it by watching the whole stream. I wanted to watch specific matches, and they weren't chopped up, so it's very hard to go back and just fast forward through the thing. So I don't know if it's a flow thing, UWW, but it was a little harder to watch in retrospect. Number two. Um, I've had this discussion a lot. The Pan Am's is, other than probably to the U.S., and it's probably more important to Canada than it is to the U.S. because we tend to dominate this tournament. But this is a very important tournament to the countries in Central and South America and North America, and maybe Mexico as well. So, to us, it's just a stepping stone, and we look at the worlds. And we think of this, some people think of this regional, this continental as a weaker one, because we'll touch on the Europeans in a second, and that can be, a tougher continental. But don't think that the people, and I've been to these tournaments, don't think that the people from South Central America aren't coming here to scrap. They want to win, and they're physical and they're tough. So just because we win doesn't mean that it's not competitive, or that some of these countries may not have as much experience. Some of the athletes may not have as much experience, but some of them are really good. And even the ones that aren't really good, they're all fairly competitive. Now, the Cuban you mentioned, 50 Ben Cosme, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, was very physical. And, when she took out Ava Bayless, it was just a physical match. You could just see. I'm assuming there might have been a little bit of an age difference or maturity. I don't know, but she was really good. Not in the greatest shape and got tired in matches, but dominated and won. So that was just a name. Yeah, that was tough. And uh, overall, the U.S. performance was very good. 59, Bella Williams did a really good job. She was wrestling from Canada, Olivia Lichty, who's very tough, and had taken her down, and she had a counter. It looked like kind of like a pancake transition with a headlock once she threw her and then stuck her. So great job by Bella Williams to win at 59. Those are kind of just the, standout points. But in general, I think the theme is, it's a tough, it is a tough tournament. It's a very significant tournament to the other countries.
And you saw that with the crowd. I felt like there was a good crowd there in the stands. I just looking in the background, I saw it looked like a sister getting excited for the wrestler on the mat. So it was fun to see in the background such enthusiasm for what was happening.
Yeah, yeah, definitely good excitement there, good crowd at the arena for sure.
Senior European Championships. How many times have we said the name Maria Prevoloraki? Now we got that one right. We know how to pronounce that last name. She finally won the European Championships, even though she's been a multiple time senior medalist. I think that's the highlight of the Euros.
Absolutely. And it was good for Maria. She's been doing this a long time. Very solid competitor. This was her 14th attempt. And if at first you don't succeed, I mean, it just shows you persistent. And it also shows you, it has, Maria Prevoloraki been good enough to win the European Championships? Absolutely. But then again, every year there's 6 to 8 people that can win, most of the weight classes. The European Championships, like as opposed to the Pan Ams, where we're talking about it's tough, there could be some good competitors from a country, from an Ecuador. They here, it is a deep tournament. I mean, for women's wrestling, it's very solid. So just because she didn't win, and you've seen it many times in senior world as well. There are people that never medal. They do it enough. They either have the right day, the right draw, the right mentality. You don't know when they do it. Congratulations to Maria. And she had to beat Anna from Romania, who's very good in the finals. She won a close match. I think it was 5-3. And, in a tough weight class, 53 is always tough. Liorda, who lost in the first round, I believe, from Moldova, is a world medalist. I mean, Malinchuk from Ukraine's very solid. Lost in the second round. Yeah, I mean, this is always a deep tournament. And anecdotally, you talk about the European Championships. I would argue the European Championships in men's Greco-Roman is probably more difficult than the World Championships. It's so deep. You have 10 people, 8 people that are probably world medalists that may lose by a point. That can be dominant people. So that was definitely the highlight. I would say the other things that stood out to me as very interesting, 62 kilos, Bonder from Ukraine won a stacked weight class. And, she's the one that beat Kilty, I believe, in the finals of the U23 Worlds, and then didn't medal at Senior Worlds. She lost in the early round. She had a very difficult draw. But, she didn't have a joke on the way to winning this. On her side of the bracket, she had to beat Dudova from Bulgaria is a world champion, the one that's just had some back and forth battles. Dugo. She had to beat Kasabieva, who's a world. Kasabieva might be a world champ from Russia or UWW, but world medalist. She beat her 8-4. And then finals, Limburg from Sweden, who's wrestled for world medals, beat Nemish of Germany, who's very tough to make the finals, and she beat her by fall. And she was up and stuck her. So good match for Bonder. The other ones I thought of note, Grace Bullen went up to 65 kilos, and She won the tournament in a match I have yet to see, but it seems that she beat Ringachi, who's a world champ from Moldova, who had beaten Kilty as well. Bolin beat her 11-8, and that's a match we have to see. And Ringachi to get there had to beat Kolodenko from Ukraine, who's a Olympic medalist and a world champion. So and multiple medalists. So those are stack weight classes, of note to me on my radar. But they're all very deep. You see, starting to see, like, obviously Bolin, she used to wrestle 57, 59, and she went up to 62. Now she's up at 65. Now, clearly, she's not going to wrestle in the Olympics. I believe she'll make the Norwegian team and qualify. She's going to either see how she's big, she's strong, and she's very physical and very athletic and very good person, too. I don't know, maybe she's toying with the concept of going to 68 because 62 is tougher to make. I would think for her, the stronger and bigger, like she's so explosive. When she's on her game, she's just really physical. And maybe 62 is too tough and she wants to see what happens. I mean, clearly, I've seen Rigachi wrestle 68 as well, and she's mostly 65, but so she's beating good people, at this weight class. So that's interesting. So those are my European Championship kind of takeaways.
And you have to imagine with Rangachi, she's a entertaining wrestler. So I would think an 11-8 match with that one had to be back and forth and fun to watch.
Yeah, I started to think about watching it and having to go through multiple of those streams and guess which mat it was out and try to piece together where it was in the order the way they did it. I will do it at some point where I'm just gonna, wait until it hits YouTube and know I have something to look forward to. At some point, I'm sure the match will be on YouTube. But an 11-8 Bolin Ringachi match is exciting because Ringachi never gives up. She's really good when you're in on her leg. You could have her dead to rights, and she's doing cross lifts, but kind of counter moves. And then Bolin, though, does what you need to do to take down something like Ringachi. She's got these blast double lifts where she finishes really clean. So I want to say, I'm kind of guessing in my head what that match kind of would look like, and it's probably a mix of both. I would be very surprised if Bolin didn't score in a double, and I'd be very surprised if Ringachi didn't score on a counter, or if a deep leg attack at some point.
Scott, we will end with this. Forgot to mention this on last show. I got to meet Lexi Beetle. If you watch anything on Flow, you know that there's Spire commercials. And so I just said, I have to meet her. Just a wonderful person. She wrestles for Baldwin Wallace. She was at Women's Nationals. I wanted to meet her at College Nationals. Finally got my picture with her. I feel like I've spent so much time with her because I've watched that commercial 500 times on Flow.
Now I've watched it 500 times in Flow, and I've asked you about 50 times to find out who this person is. And she's put her. They got their money's worth. Spire Academy with that ad, and she's represented them very well, and she seems like a really good person. So that was really cool that you told me, that you actually got to meet her, and she's a celeb, and it's good to have some wrestling celebrities doing that. And also just final up for me, with the name stuff, thank you. If we butcher names, it's not with bad intent, I promise.
No, we want to get it right. And one name
Yeah, we
that
do.
I mean, Ashley Flavin, her maiden name is Ashley Sword. I think that Christian should fall on the sword. Her husband, I think it should be Christian Sword. How awesome would that name be?
The Christian Sword, that's a good name. I still call her I refer to her to you always as Ashley Sword. It's kind of funny. I haven't switched to Flavin yet, but yeah, that would be a great combination. That would be a good name. So,
So
Kristen, maybe you could take one for the team here and let her switch. I mean, you switch.